Not because it's a good or bad thing, okay? It's just because I find that it can benefit open riders a little bit more than non-pros, okay? But I'm going to say it to everybody because I had it in mind. So, I love the mental game, okay? And the mental game between myself and I, and between the horse and I, but also between people and I. And I find that you can't always expect your horse to maximize their ability. But there's a person, every time you walk in the arena, that the pressure's on him. And usually it's not you. It's the judge. Okay? Because the judge is sitting there, and he's got a bunch of people in the class, and he's supposed to be focused a rider after a rider after a rider after a rider. Okay? And he needs to do a good job. He needs to score, and if he doesn't do a good job, everybody gets pissed off on him, you know. If it gets too hard to go around, everybody bitches, you know. You know, everybody is on the judge. You work hard, and you expect your judge to, in those 4 minutes of yours, to be focused and give you what you deserve, you know. The judges will agree with me, right? Good. Now I want to tell you something of what I call the halo effect, okay? There are two kinds of sports. There are sports that are objective, and there are sports that are subjectives, okay? Objective sports is 100 meters run. The first one will cross the line will win, you know, you love it or not. He's the fastest. He can do it in one leg, 2 legs, I don't know, on his hands, you know. It's objective. There's subjective sports like reining, dressage, you know, that the judge has the objective criteria, but he's a human being, you know. This one liked it this way, that one liked it the other way. If we like it or not, you know. Show jumping is objective. You go through the laser, you jump, you go through the laser again, the clock is over. If you didn't knock anything down, you know, only time. If you do knock, you get penalties. All right? Now, have you ever thought to yourself how the judges think in the show pen? And I'll be happy if Darren will agree with me or disagree with me, all right? So, when you start your action as a rider, okay, from the first movement, pretty much, the judge does not pick a score, but he gets the sense of the range you're going to ride at, okay? You know, so if you start your first circle, he's already, okay, this is going to be a 0 plus half maneuver. This is going to be a minus half, 0 maneuver. This is going to be a plus half, plus 1 maneuver. Okay? And then while he's watching you ride, he's always going on this range. You know, this is 0. And in their mind, it's 0, it's plus half, 0 plus half. And then you finish the maneuver, you're already starting the next maneuver, right? So the judge has a split second to make the call. He's sitting there, plus half. Okay? How do they make the call? Okay? I'll tell you in a second. But the world of subjective sports, athletes understood that they can influence the judge. Okay? So if you show in surfing that you're happy about your execution on the wave, you have an impact on the judge that it was a good wave, a good execution. You know, if you finish a turnaround and you just do like shake your hands as you're not happy, you know, the judge should not be positively impacted by what you do. Okay? So there's a way of trying to impact the judge by doing exaggerating movements like happy or disappointment, and they're going to affect him. But for me, that's kind of underestimating the judge's power. Okay? He's not going to be influenced if you do like yes after a 0 maneuver. Okay? But let's understand how the judges do evaluate. So the halo effect is a psychological theory that says last impression is first impression. Okay? Sometimes we think that the first impression is the most important, but I'll give an example, okay? A theoretical thing. It's not a real factor, okay? So we have same rider, same horse, have 2 run-down stops and roll back, okay? The first one will be a beautiful rundown, a beautiful stop, and a rough rollback, okay? The second side will be not a very nice rundown, okay? As the horse took off a little bit, got strong, but a beautiful stop and a beautiful rollback. Let's say, theoretically, one will be a plus half and one will be 0. Who would think the plus half will be the first one with the beautiful rundown, beautiful stop, and not very pretty rollback? No one. Who would think that the second one, the beautiful stop and the beautiful rollback with not a very nice rundown, will be a plus half? Only you? Pick up your hand, okay? Just for me to understand what you're thinking. All right. So why? Objectively, we have 3 parts, right? I took 3 parts of it. Yeah. Why?
The last 2 were good.
Huh?
The last 2 were good.
Yeah. I mean, the fact is that you have a thought about it, Warren?
Yeah, negative, positive, positive.
Yeah.
Is what? Yeah.
Negative, positive, positive. Whereas the other one is positive, positive, negative.
Good. Okay. So let's understand where's the psychological part of it. Our memory does not go from the beginning to the end. It goes from the end to the beginning. So when you think about something that happened, you go back from the first thing you remember that was the last thing that happened. And then you go back. Okay? So the halo effect says last impression is first impression. That's why horses can step to the turnaround but finish big, though plus. But horses can start amazing, but the last little part, last step wasn't good and take everything away. The same thing for the rundowns. Now, think about the best riders that you can think of, okay? They claim. What do they claim? What does it mean to claim? They finish their maneuver the second before the judges call the score with an impact. Okay? With an impact. Everybody here have seen Andrea Fapani show? Okay, everybody here, think about Andrea Fapani roll back. What do you think about?
The last part when it comes out.
Okay, you think about Andrea, or you think about the horse? You think about the horse? Okay. Anybody else? No, what do you think about Andrea? What do you think about Casey Derry's show? You think about Casey and Amazing. Everybody's seen this ride. You think about Amazing or you think about Casey? Everybody can tell me a move that Casey does? Huh?
He's quiet compared to Andrea.
Huh?
His body movements are quieter.
Quiet. Okay, love it. Okay. Casey and Andrea and even Sean created a language, okay, that encourage us to look at them sometimes more than when we look at the horse. All right? And this is something that is very important to understand. The judge cannot focus over 2 things. He cannot watch the rider and the horse at the same time. If he looks at the whole image, both the rider and the horse, he's staring. He needs to focus. We're talking about focus. You got to put your focus on something. Okay? The judges is getting paid not to watch you guys. He's getting paid to watch your horse. But he's human. Like I said, he's the most challenged person in the arena. What great trainers understood, and that's something that, I see a lot and I try to encourage riders to do, is we have spots that we can encourage the judge to look at us. When the judge looks at us, you know where he's not very focusing? On a horse. So now after the Derby, I was working with some riders on something, and other riders talked about this rider, about something, and they bitched about how the horse wasn't good. I knew why. So, for example, okay, and you said very quiet. And that I'm going to wrap up. And I'm not saying this is a game changer technique, okay? I'm not asking you to go and be like over-exaggerating, okay? What I do believe is that in the world of reining, every half point counts. Every half point can make a difference between first place and second place, okay? And we have to use anything we got in order to convince the judge, go back to the range. And I said in the beginning, when he's in the range of 0 plus half, I want to convince him to be in the plus half. Okay? That's what I want to do. I want to understand where the spots I want him to look at my horse, because my horse looks great. And where the spots that if I can convince him to look at me. Yeah, I'm not going to work all the time, everywhere, but it can't work that one time in the pattern. So I'll give you an example, and I'll wrap it up with that. And just thought for mind, When Gabriel and I went to the 100X, okay? I was watching him, and the way when I go with riders to the big shows, I sit there for hours and watch them ride their horses, okay? And I hardly ever look at the horses, even if it's you guys. When you ride, I don't look much at the horse, I look at the riders. And I told him, listen, man, when you ride your horse, I look at your horse all the time, you know? It's not a bad thing, okay? But if your horse fucks up, we're doomed, you know? If your horse is going to do a mistake, the judges, I see it right away. And I encourage him to claim. And I messed up his brain, like in a good way, you know, like, what do you want me to do? You want me to start being, you know, sloppy? Well, like, what are you expecting? I'm not going to tell you what to do. I want you to take my attention, you know, when you're riding, you know. And we were talking about it for 4 or 5 days, and he's like, did you see it? I'm like, no. Did you see it? No. And then the last day he told me, I got it, Gil. And then he went to show. And he went the other direction. He was so silent with his body that everybody saw it. Like, for example, when he backed up, when you see his back up, he started his 3 first quarters of his back up with his hand down. And it's so, you know, if you used to see riders back up, you know, pick their hand up and go, he was so committed to be quiet with his body that at some point you couldn't stop looking at him being so quiet. And when you look at this run, by the second and third time, you see so many trouble with the horse. The horse didn't slow down. He ran fast, a small, slow. He missed his second stop. The thing that in real life, like, everybody missed, you know. But he was able to take the attention in those spots that made a +1/2 to a +1. And change the game. So I didn't want. I'm not here to tell you what to do, okay? But I'm here just to show you another level of performance that we can use to our favor, okay? Now, what is claiming, okay? And this is, I'm gonna end with that. It's just in 3 aspects, okay? One is accuracy. If you don't have an accurate maneuver, you're not claiming, okay? It has to be accurate by the rules of the game. Make sense? Good. 2, it has to represent trust. I trust my horse that it's going to do good. So if you're accurate, the horse is being accurate in his maneuver, and you're trusting it, you're doing something to represent trust. You know, think about other riders. Sean Ferreira puts his hand like that on the horse's neck, and he runs, you know, for example. Casey doesn't touch his horse's mouth, for example, the reins, okay? And the third thing is radical approach. Radical approach is doing that move that gets my attention. So I go back to Andreas Rollback. If you watch Andreas Rollback now, any given horse, you'll see Andrea with his body just like moving his body, exaggerating. Sometimes the Rollback is nice and solid and quiet. But he took the attention to him, and he made you feel that the Rollback is a lot more powerful than maybe what the horse was if you would look at the horse. And that for me, it's genius. I didn't invent it by myself. I thought about the best riders, the best trainers, and you know, every half point, like I said, it's money.
It's giving the illusion of a better maneuver.
Huh?
Giving the illusion of a better maneuver.
So they understand that sometimes we don't get the best maneuver out of the horse. You know what I mean? But out of yourself, you can expect yourself to bring your best self to each and every run. And this is the thing, it's very important. I'm not encouraging everybody here to go and claim all your maneuvers. It's a master of art. But if you have a horse, for example, that you just trust in the circles, show it to us. You know? If your horse stops big, show it to us. If your horse turns good, make sure you shut off. It's going to be so impressive, like I feel that you hit the wall, you know? Show it to us. Now, it's not going to make a 70 horse a 72 horse. But it's going to make a 71.5 run a 72. It can make a 73.5 run a 74. And like I love to say, that is money. You know? Any questions?
So you're saying just be a